Hey folks, this is Matt once again, and welcome back to another Steven Seagal review. And this is for the film The Glimmer Man, Two Good Cops, One Bad Situation. Now, The Glimmer Man is a film not many people talk about when they mention Steven Seagal. When it came out, it was a box office flop. I think it made about $20 million on a $45 million budget. I also know some stuff was cut out of the script. For example, I think there's going to be an explosion on a houseboat because Keenen Ivory Wayans' character is going to be on a houseboat instead of an apartment. And there's going to be this action scene where Steven Seagal takes on these SWAT guy members. And I think maybe the ending was going to be a bigger type of ending. And also, when this film was completed, apparently Warner Brothers took to the editing scissors on this film because this is a very short movie. With the end credits, it's an hour and 31 minutes, maybe an hour and 32 minutes. Without the end credits, it's like an hour and 27 minutes. It's definitely a very short film. And apparently, one of the things that was cut out were there were more scenes between these two guys, both dramatic wise and comedy wise. So there's more banter, more rapport between these two that was cut out, and that's sad. I would love to see that. Love to see it on the deleted scenes section, or see that first cut of the film. That's a shame. Warner Brothers had a habit of doing this. They did it. They cut, and probably stolen as well, but Warner Brothers cut stuff out of Cobra, Showdown Little Tokyo, a lot of Steven Seagal films. Warner Brothers did that a lot, and of course, Warner Brothers doesn't give a shit, so you're not really going to see much of these deleted scenes. Unless there's a TV version that has the scenes in it, but other than that, shit out of luck. Hell, this film isn't even out on Blu-ray. It's on a double-sided disc, widescreen on one side, full screen on the other. And it's one of those cheap Warner Brothers DVDs where the menu is literally just the Warner Brothers logo. It's the Warner Brothers logo, and it's like you just see a trailer and jump to a scene. It's not even a picture from the film or the cover, poster. It's literally the menu is a Warner Brothers logo, so you know how cheap this is. And again, never been on Blu-ray because it wasn't a hit, and Warner Brothers are. I'd rather this be on Blu-ray than Batman and Robin. But anyway, despite all that, and it has a lot of negative reviews, I've always enjoyed this film. I've always thought it was a bit underrated. It definitely goes at a fast pace. Like it says, technically only an hour and 20 some minutes. Cut out the end credits. The music, I like the music by Trevor Rabin, who I believe this is one of the first films he was a composer on. And he's worked on quite a few films. He's collaborated with other composers, for example, on Con Air and Armageddon and Enemy of the State. Him and some others helped work on music for those films. I really, I especially really enjoy the opening credits music. That I've always enjoyed that. I like these two in the film. I think they work well together. Steven Seagal, I think, does a good job acting-wise. He having a little bit of fun with his character because his character have these love beads, and at one point he's like, "Oh, I can't fight. It's against my religion." And then he does fight, and then Keenen Ivory Wayans goes, "Wait a minute, I thought you said you can't fight." No, I mean, I'm not supposed to fight. It's against my religion. Keenen Ivory Wayans is very underrated as an actor and sort of an action star because I recommend two action films he did, A Low Down Dirty Shame and Most Wanted. Those are two very underrated films starring Keenen Ivory Wayans. Low Down Dirty Shame is more of an action comedy, while Most Wanted is more of a serious action film. But he's the lead in both of those, and he's actually really good. And those are underrated films. So, yeah, this was a time Keenen Ivory Wayans was trying to be sort of an action star. And I think all three movies are good, but all three of those movies bombed, so he didn't continue, unfortunately. It's directed by a guy named John Gray. Film also co-stars Bob Gunton. He was the warden, the evil warden in the Shawshank Redemption. Brian Cox, who was Hannibal Lecter in Manhunter. Apparently his role was actually going to go to Tommy Lee Jones, but I guess he had to leave on short notice, so he couldn't do the flick. But he's like very close to doing it, and then Brian Cox got in sort of the last minute. I like Brian Cox, but yeah, it would have been interesting to see Tommy Lee Jones in another Seagal film. I mean, Brian Cox's role is pretty short, unless that was more stuff that was cut out by Warner Brothers. Let's see. I know some other stuff that was cut out, apparently, is more scenes with Seagal's wife, that character. And I have to wonder that the inspiration for this film was probably a little bit of the movie Seven. Now, I say a little bit because the entire plot is not about a serial killer, but a little bit of it is. And even the opening credits remind me of Seven. Well, after Seven, which was that 95? A lot of movies sort of started doing more with the opening credits. It's like, yeah, let's take that and mix that a little bit with a Steven Seagal movie. And I like that idea. It's sort of like a Seagal movie meets the movie Seven. I mean, at least for a little bit. And because the opening credits are these pictures of these dead people who they get crucified, and they have a thorn crown of thorns on their head. They're killed, and there's like a serial killer, but there's also a guy who is mimicking the serial killer, kind of hide his real plan, which deals with the certain covert things going on. I kind of like the idea behind it, and I thought it had some pretty funny sequences. I thought it had some pretty cool martial arts, some good stunt work, especially this sequence here where Keenen Ivory Wayans' apartment gets blown up, and good job by the stuntman jumping from that high, all on fire, done for real, landing in this car. Really good job by the stuntman. And I never thought this film was that bad. Never thought this film was that bad at all. I think it's a solid movie. Solid action film. Hell, compared to action movies nowadays, this is a pretty solid flick. And it goes by a pretty damn fast pace. So after the opening credits, Steven Seagal quickly meets Keenen Ivory Wayans. And they have some banter with each other, and there's these victims, again, crucified, crown of thorns on their head. And you have some scenes of them trying to get to know each other. Seagal asking, so you married or what? And then Keenen is going, oh yeah, see, this is what happens with new partners. They all want to try to get personal. And Seagal's like, oh, I'm sorry, forget I mentioned anything. So you married or what? I like that bit. Some random things that they help out. Well, one that you think they're random, but they have a little bit to do with the plot later on. For example, helping the suicidal kid. Seagal's talking with him in this classroom, and the kid's about ready to kill himself, and Seagal pushes the kid from one window across the building to another window. And the guy's girlfriend's like, I love you. And then the guy who's almost passed out, I love you too. And then Seagal looks at him and goes, oh yeah, I love you too, but I hate this job. And the father of that kid is Bob Gunton, who is one of our bad guys. And then they have this other guy, I forget the actor's name, but he's sort of the head of Bob Gunton's security. And sort of wants Seagal to kiss their ass. Seagal's like, no, fuck that, get out of here. And get your ugly white ass out of here and don't come back. I think that was the line of dialogue. The two of them look at this evidence and autopsies, and he's like, well, what do you see here? And Keenen goes, well, she has nice tits. Yes, grasshopper, but a bit too nice. Let me have that. And it shows that there are implants. You know, run the numbers, and you find out that she was Russian. And later on, jumping ahead, you find out that it deals with people being mules for chemical weapons. And that's why when you do further autopsies, they're filled with bone cancer. And again, jumping ahead, Bob Gunton and the head of security guy, in order to silence loose ends, they're killing people to mimic the serial killer that's going on right now. So the cops think the serial killer killed all of them, when in fact he only killed some of them, while the other bad guys did it to sort of mimic them, this guy, and hide their evidence, hide themselves. And I actually don't mind that idea. I mean, granted, I guess it would be interesting if they just went up against a serial killer, but I, I would have liked to have seen that. I'll admit that. I mean, but then you get something like Kill Switch, which that movie sucks. See, that's a bad version of this movie. Kill Switch, that's a bad version of this movie. With a fucking guy being pushed out a window literally 8 or 9 fucking times. You can find that Kill Switch clip. Find that on YouTube. And when you do find and watch it, that is not re-edited for laughter. That is how the scene really is. But I'll get to that one day down the road. I should review it like 4 or 5 years ago, but I'll re-review it because I'm doing a Seagal-a-thon. But anyway, some fun banter and sequences between these two guys. They go into the shop and this woman keeps talking to him in Chinese. He's like, "You know I'm black? I have no idea what you're saying." Oh, he's saying, you know, you could do this and do that. And Keenen Ivory Keenen's character has a nice little bit where he's a fan of Casablanca, and it makes him teary-eyed anytime he sees it. And you have some fun lines. "Oh, you do this, you know, it cleanses your soul." And Keenen goes, "If I needed cleansing, I'll get a bran muffin." Or, "Hey, if you have allergies, put this under your tongue." And then Keenen's like, "This is bitter." "I don't know why it'd be bitter." "Well, what is it?" "Well, just some powdered deer penis." "Oh, shit, man. Damn, I feel violated." I thought that was fun. And another sequence where they go up against carjackers. He goes, "Hey, let's get those guys." And Keenen goes, "Well, why don't we just get you some red boots and a cape so you can fly around and stop all the crimes?" And you have a fun fight scene with these carjackers. Seagal says, "Well, he's a little bit of country, I'm a little bit of rock and roll." And he gets this cool thing with his credit card. "Hey, you take my credit card," and a little knife pops up and he slits like 3 guys' throats, which I thought was pretty cool. And I thought the fight scenes were fine. Keenen does a little bit of punching. Seagal takes a guy, throws his head right into a car window, kicking guys. In this film, he can kick pretty damn good. Not too shabby on the kicking front. I don't really think of Seagal much of as a kicker, but he actually pulls it off well. And, you know, does a takedown of a guy and breaks one guy's arm. Beats the shit out of a guy until he falls off and gets impaled on the thing below. And this one bit that I always laugh, and I've actually done this in some rants, few and far in between, but if you've ever seen a rant of me and I do this, I get it from this movie where Keenen looks at a guy who looks like he's almost unconscious. He's like, "He's Russian? Let me speak with him." And he's like, what was the, use that line of dialogue? "You answer me before I beat the shit out of you, you dumbass." Anytime I go, "Well, you dumbass," that's from this movie. He's just beating the shit out of you. "Answer me before I beat the shit out of you, you dumbass." And while beating them up, and Seagal goes, "You speak good Russian." "Yeah, you know, I speak black Russian." "Well, you can, you know, read him his rights. I don't think he can hear you, but you can." Then Keenen thinks about it, like, He knows them. And while this is going on, more people get killed. Some nice practical blood squibs to the head. And Seagal's on a crime scene. A little bit of emotion on his face. I mean, he's not known for showing much emotion, but he shows a little bit there. And, it doesn't have to be too over the top. And he tells his current wife that, he's got to tell his kids that their mother is dead. He wants to see Brian Cox, who he used to work with in the agency, to get some answers. So he goes to this little restaurant. A guy who's giving him shit and just bitch smacks him in the face. And takes the guy's phone. Yeah, sure. We'll give you a table. Like, choke pushes a guy through a wall, sees Brian Cox, and gets some info, leaves. And then the guy fucking with him again. You should knock potion because I have something that could clear that bruise on your forehead. What bruise? Well, that bruise. And just tosses a guy through walls, does a wrist takedown one guy, makes a guy hit a pole and just punches him so the guy bounces off the pole with his head. Some nice kicks, kicking guy through the walls. And then he's leaving, the phone rings. Yeah, this place is closed for renovation for about 2 months. And so it's nice that Seagal is having a bit of sense of humor with the flick, with his character. And it's nice to see because it's not too typical, especially when you get in this direct-to-video route. And it was nice to see Seagal's one of his characters have a bit of sense of humor throughout the flick. That was fun to see, sort of a little different side of Seagal. And I know some friends of mine don't care for the film because they feel it's not really much of a buddy cop film, but I think it is. Keenen is in the film quite a bit. I still would like to see that stuff that was cut out by Warner Brothers, but Keenan's in the film a lot throughout. But I guess I always thought of this as a Steven Seagal film with Keenen Ivory Wayans in it. And given good support. I mean, that's how I always thought of it. So I guess it didn't really bother me too much, but might bother other people. But there's one guy who is a killer, is the serial killer, and Seagal finds him in a church. And the guy's like, well, I didn't kill those other people. Someone else was called. Who? And not some bad... Seagal actually does some little bit of decent acting because he's actually showing some emotion. He's not deadpan and wooded and no emotion and whispering the whole time. He's like, hey, stop that. He doesn't want to shoot. Don't. And that has to shoot the guy. I think the actor's name is Steven Tobolowsky. And I know there's a fun little scene where, behind the scenes, where apparently on the day Seagal says, well, I can't shoot this guy, I'm in a church, and, I shouldn't kill him. And the director goes, but he's a killer, you have to kill him. And even the actor, Steven Tobolowsky, goes, well, truthfully, if I kill myself, then I would go to hell, but you shooting me and killing me doesn't mean that. Or he says some bullshit thing, and then Seagal agreed with it, and then later on, the director called the actor, said, oh man, we gotta, have you do some ADR or some stuff, because now Seagal changed his mind again and doesn't want you to die. And then in the film, he does die, so the whole fucking conversation didn't matter. But it just showed that, again, Seagal's fucking crazy ego. Also, another story where Keenen Ivory Wayans, and they were all waiting for Seagal because he was always late to set. Seems like every fucking movie you hear that story that Seagal's late to set. And Seagal talked about how he read the best script he's ever read. And someone asked, who wrote it? And Seagal says, I did. Jesus. So, I may not liked Seagal as a person. But that's an instance, there's some people that I don't like as a person, and it's hard to watch their movies. In this instance, granted, I don't like Seagal as a person, but I enjoy movies like this. I enjoy his character. Some people think maybe he killed his ex-wife, and maybe he's helped out or did some stuff. There's a fun little scene where he takes a polygraph where, is this your name? Yes. Have you ever climbed Mount Everest? Yes. And the woman's like, said truth, okay. And Seagal beats the polygraph, and the head cop is like, can anyone beat this thing? Well, I mean, unless you have full control of your body and emotions. But I think nowadays people have said that polygraphs in real life are not really meaning anything, one way or another. But this was a time that polygraph meant the world. I think that's why you don't see a lot of polygraphs in movies anymore, because apparently that's bullshit. But that was a time of frame where polygraphs seemed like it meant the world. Lie detector tests, I should say. Same thing. But yeah, I never got bored with this film. I thought the director did a competent, decent job directing. Found really nothing much wrong with the direction of the flick. Guy says Seagal gets suspended, has to give his badge, throws it in the urinal that the guy had pissed in. So you did it yourself type of thing. He's trying to look for info. There's one scene where an assailant with a mask on or sort of a hood on, stocking on, Seagal like throws his head into the TV and throws him into this sort of pen with a lot of birds in it, and just a little teeny bit of fight scene. And meets up with Keenen, who's in a theater watching Casablanca and crying. And Seagal's like, "You crying? Oh no, these just sometimes my eyes leak." And Seagal's like, "Your leak, huh? Your eyes leak, huh?" And then Seagal like takes out a napkin, wipes Keenan's face. He's like, "Oh, leave me alone. What do you want?" And Seagal tells him a bit of himself and what's really going on, what might be going on. And like these are maybe mules for chemical weapons. That deals with Bob Gunton, and then you have a fun bit of banter. So let's go back and finish watching this movie. You ever seen Casablanca? And Seagal's like, "Have I ever seen Casablanca? You're asking me if I've ever seen Casablanca? Yeah, have you? No." And then takes Seagal to see Casablanca. Brian Cox, who, again, he's not in the film too much, so I'm wondering if some of his scenes were cut out. I mean, there's a scene where that sets him up, a scene in the restaurant where he tosses Seagal, this scene here where he explains who Seagal is and mentions the title of the film, that Seagal used to work for him with covert stuff, and we called him the Glimmer Man, where you see nothing but jungle, then a glimmer, then you be dead. Thus the Glimmer Man. And then, like, probably two scenes after that, one where he tells Bob Gunton, "We gotta take care of any leaks," which includes your stepson, the kid earlier who tried to kill himself. And then later on, when Seagal gets some info from him, shoots him in his foot and one of his hands, and he's able to tell, leaves him to live, says, "Don't make me kill you," and heads out. So, yeah, a handful of scenes. Yeah, this sequence here, like I said, I really enjoy, where Keenen gets attacked by an assailant. And decent little scuffle throughout the apartment, becomes on fire. And again, a good stunt where Keenen Ivory, of course, does the unrealistic but fun escape in the fireball, because you can't do that in real life. Like the scene in Con Air, and many movies where you're escaping a fireball. You can't do it, but it's fun to watch. I mean, it's escapism fun to watch that kind of stuff, if it's done well. And again, good stunt guy, jumping out of a window, explosion, landing in the car below. Very well done stunt sequence. Definitely the best stunt of the movie. At the same time, Seagal just taken in with these, uh, you think they're cops while it's raining out, and they're really these Russian guys, and try to kill Seagal. And Seagal beats the fuck out of the guy with the butt of his gun till he's bloodied up. And the car has a nice flip over, nice stunt sequence there, and it rolls. And Seagal rolls out of the back windshield, and the car rolls into a tanker and blows up. So you get a couple of good explosions in the flick. See, after that, you had. That's where he talks to Brian Cox, him and Keenen. And, of course, the scene where, after the fact, where they're in Keenan's apartment, and Seagal goes, "Oh, they got to you too, huh?" And Keenen goes, "No, I bought all this shit after the riots." And Seagal finds out, "Oh, you've been buying some, potions, huh? Some stuff from that shop." "Yeah, I'm very proud of you, man." "Oh, thanks." And you feel bad for the guy because his fucking apartment got blown up. He's homeless and he's had a bad couple of days. But they did some info for Brian Cox, and it deals with chemical weapons from Russia, and these people were the mules for them. And they do some nice trickery where they record Brian Cox talking, and they, on a phone, make Bob Gunton listen to that and says, "I don't want you, I want the guy who's the shooter, the guy who killed my ex-wife." Then they record that, then they send that info to the other guy, so that when they get to this apartment building, Bob Gunton and the shooter, the guy who killed Seagal's ex-wife, they get pissed at each other, and one shoots the other, and Seagal and Keenen go in. You have a nice little shootout with some good practical blood squibs. I miss when action movies did that. I mean, so many plentiful amount of action movies in the 80s and 90s had practical blood squibs that looked better, that looked more natural and doesn't take you out of the scene like CGI does. And they worked. And they seem safe enough for those stuntmen. So I never got why they don't do that nowadays. Never understood why they never do that nowadays. I never understood that. Never did. I mean, is it really that difficult? Is it really that hard? So I don't get it. I don't get it. But hey, what do I know? So anyway, Keenen gets shot, goes out a window. Seagal has to rappel down. Nice little stunt where both of them go through a window. And Seagal has a one-on-one with the killer who killed his ex-wife. And this is a decent little fight scene. I like the choreography. Seagal punching the shell out of the guy's face so he's bloodied up. Get to a little bit upstairs. And it's a nice little back and forth. Seagal blocking the leg. And all this is boring. And beats the fuck out of the guy. Hits him in the head with a telephone. Makes him, it's like, "Hey, come on, hit me." Punches Seagal so he's got like both like blood coming down both right here. Nice little look for Seagal. It's like, holy shit, Seagal's bleeding. That's a rare event. And he's saying stuff like, "If that's the best that you got, I guess I'm just going to have to kill you. Is that the best you got?" Throws his ass out the window. The guy gets impaled. His chin gets impaled on these sharp railing below. Afterwards, Keenen says, "We shouldn't see each other for a few days." Was it something I said? I met you, I got beaten up, I got blown up, my apartment's gone, I'm homeless. Nothing good's ever happened to me since I met you. Yeah, but I got you to try powdered deer penis. Don't talk to me, don't send me messages. If you send me a bird with a message on it, I'm going to throw its ass back out. And I don't really have much problems with the flick other than I would like to see that deleted footage with more scenes with these two guys, because I would like to have seen more of that. And that's Warner Brothers' fault for cutting the shit out. I thought the fight scenes were fun. It definitely went at a fast pace. It was under an hour and a half to watch. Trevor Rabin did a good job on the score, fit the film well, especially like the opening credits score. I like Keenen Ivory Wayans as an actor. I think he's underrated. He's the underrated guy. Again, I would also recommend A Low Down Dirty Shame and Most Wanted. Um, Low Down Dirty Shame especially is pretty damn entertaining. But yeah, Most Wanted has him and I forget the guy's name. Even Eric Roberts has like a small role in that one. That's a bit underrated too. Most Wanted. I keep repeating because I sometimes mix up my words, so I want to make sure I'm saying it clearly. But yeah, I like the music. Plot was fine. Some people said the plot was confusing. I didn't find the plot confusing. I like the banter between these two guys. Had some solid action sequences, explosions. Like they had a bit of a budget behind it. Didn't look cheap. Some fun banter between the two. I liked some of the dialogue, and some of the fight scenes were fun. And it was nice to see Seagal have a bit of sense of humor to his character. And yeah, of all the films Seagal has done, this is the closest he's done to a buddy cop film. Really, the only one. So it was nice to see that. Bit refreshing. So overall, I like the Glimmer Man. I always thought it was a bit underrated. Never really understood why all the hate for it. Flopped badly. Gets a 5 point. I think it was a 5.3. I think that's a bit low. I don't know if I put this in my top 5 because there's a lot of early Seagal films. Like Out for Justice, Above the Law, Under Siege would be above this. That's tough. That's tough. March for Death. I mean, but still a damn good one. Either way, thanks for watching. Take care and stay tuned because I have plenty more Steven Seagal films to get to later.